Fans, we are back live with a very special edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling. And as I said, we have a very special guest tonight, the man who has many, many monikers. He's an ECW original. He's one of a kind. He's Mr. Monday Night, and he is the whole effing show. And I would be speaking about the legendary Rob Van Dam. This is going to be a very exciting interview that, one could consider a bucket list interview for those of us who are such ardent fans of the original ECW. But before we get to Rob, I have to introduce the man whose podcast this is, Mr. Cheap Heat himself, Morris Shortle.
Thank you very much, Jack. And Rob, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. We're both massive fans of yours. We watched you all throughout the years, so absolute honor to have you on today, man.
Glad to be here. Man. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Right on.
Rob, we're going to kick in. I know we're kind of tight for time today. We got about 30 minutes. So I'll start kind of hot where it's at the moment. The Vince McMahon documentary. Did you get to see it? What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I was just thinking, 30 minutes. I really liked it. I tried not to have too solid of expectations, as is one of my values in life always. I try not to. I thought it was a great story. It brought me back to not only my childhood, but also realizing where I drop in on the overall timeline, having a chance to see the bigger picture from a chronological perspective like that. I really enjoyed learning what I learned, and I thought it was edited, put together, really in a really good way where it felt like a roller coaster. Like, here comes some more trouble, and then he, skates by it. Now he's crushing it, and then more scandal, more crushing. And I thought that they did a great job of keeping me invested in it like that.
Rob, many fans still to this day look back fondly in your time frame in your work in the original ECW, myself included. And I wanted to ask you a question that I wondered about for a while, and that is your work with the World Television title and elevating it to become the primary title in the original ECW in terms of importance. Was that a decision that you received any sort of negative feedback from, considering the traditional position of the world title in an organization, that you were perhaps stealing some of that shine, or was it just an organic development?
I want to say, and was going to say, and still am going to say, that it was a very organic thing that just naturally happened. But there might have been possibly some complaining. I don't really remember. And I know Mike Awesome had the heavyweight title, and before him, I don't even know who had it. Do you? I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
It was Taz, so I went back from, if someone was going to complain, it would. But I don't know. I mean, it's a familiar feeling to think about that, but I don't know back then. And my head was a little in the clouds back then. It's kind of to be performing like I was. I kind of feel like I had to have myself wrapped up in my own ego a little bit, and I don't remember caring a lot about what else was going on in the card or on the show. It was mostly just about me and my part to me. But it does remind me of like when I had the Hardcore Championship. That did happen then. It was like the same situation. I was giving it more credibility than they ever wanted it to, and I was main eventing house shows with the Hardcore Championship, and nobody ever wanted that, I don't think. But it was easier to do because there was like A, B, and C shows at that time, so there was so so much talent out there that it was, a little easier to do that. But, what did they do? They retired the belt while I still had it. And that was one of my favorite championships to have, was the one that was a joke to everyone else. But very similar for me, having the hardcore championship, even though it was looked down upon or was a joke to the rest of the WWE universe, to me, it was a tribute to my TV television championship run.
I remember fondly when you had the tag team run with Kane, and by the end of all that, obviously you guys were going your separate ways. There was the big dramatic unmasking of Kane, and then he chokeslammed you. That was the first time people seen Kane without the mask. What was kind of the reaction and the kind of backstage kind of planning around that? And was it a big moment for Glenn having to unmask, or just I kind of never really heard anyone talk about the behind the scenes stuff on that angle?
The only thing that really sticks out in my mind about that time period was the vignette, the thing we shot where I was tied up and Kane was trying to light me on fire. And I was already just at that point, the whole time I was there, I was going through different cycles of frustration, like came in representing ECW. I was really happy. Then that petered out. And then I was unmotivated, TV title run, happy, retirement, unmotivated. And it was always like that, up and down. And I felt like, and I know a lot of fans loved this time period, so I'm glad for that. But for me, being in the middle of that, I felt like my job was to be a rag doll, and which isn't good for the ego. Which is important because that's what's so weird is you have to, even if it is like an ego thing, it also determines how you get paid. If you're one of those guys, that's a rag doll, or if you're one of the guys that's getting the 1, 2, 3 every night, you know what I mean? It's so weird that they'll tell you, no, it's a work. Act like it's like you're an actor, and but also you determine how much of the pool every night you're going to distribute based on that exact thing that you have no control over. I was frustrated, and I remember that particular night, Bruce Pritchard was being like such a pain in the ass, wanting to do it over and over and over, and I couldn't scream the right way for him to make it convincing to where he thought I feared for my life, and it was just, and he was like, well, Rob, you're acting, Willa sucks. And that really just stands out as a focal point for me. I think about how frustrating it was and how much I was looking forward to getting on with that and getting on to the next storyline, whoever they were going to partner me with or whatever the hell they were going to do randomly. Yeah.
We're going to be jumping around a bit in the time frame of your career. And I wanted to ask you about something that the smart fans, so to speak, the smarks, especially in Philly and the arena, I think talk about to this day or debate. And that was how it came to be that you weren't, what a cute dog, that you weren't booked initially for the first ECW pay-per-view, Barely Legal. You came in, you defeated Lance Storm, and then you cut that promo where you were seemingly running down ECW a bit. Fans are debating whether that was something that was spontaneous or going into business for yourself, so to speak. And did you get any heat from Lance or anybody else backstage?
No heat. That was the byproduct of a conversation that I had with Paul about the situation, which was, I'm not booked on the pay-per-view. I don't feel appreciated right now. Everyone else is leaving for WCW and making a lot more money and being seen by a lot more people, and they want me. They want me to go there, and to stand up against that offer, you give me an empty seat on the bench. I just, I had to talk it out with Paul, and then Paul was saying, what if I can get you on Monday Night Raw? And I had no idea how that was going to happen, but I was interested in hearing, and he laid out this plan, and that was the result, of him saying, the people will expect you to be on WCW, because it was all over the dirt sheets. And back then, those fans in particular, that was their Bible. Whatever was said in there, they went by. So everyone, me saying, I'll see you on Monday night, I'm a real superstar, that's where I belong. Fuck y'all, see you. That was a swerve, because they did expect me to be on WCW, and Paul did get me on WWF, and I did not figure out yet what his working relationship with Vince was back then.
You mentioned some kind of challenging times there. We mentioned in the WWF in the early 2000s. Was there ever any kind of offer they made in terms of storyline or anything like that you ever said no to, or you had no interest in doing, or did you just kind of go with the flow?
I feel like I've told this story a bit, but it comes to mind right away. I don't think anything else is jumping in front of it. But yes, I feel like probably a few times, but the one that's in the front of my mind was when they wanted to do a romantic angle with me and Stephanie McMahon. And my shoot wife was like the most insecure person on the planet. She hated it and totally didn't trust me being on the road already, and didn't trust anyone I worked with. It was like one of those horror stories, which a lot of people can relate to. And I prioritized in trying to make my marriage work above my job, which, you don't get into the mafia unless you swear omerta, and that comes first before your real family. But I never really did that, and my evil ex knows that I would have left and got on a plane and gone to her if she needed me. But we also knew that I wasn't her priority, and she wouldn't do the same to me. So it was like off lopsided already. But yeah, this was a time where Stephanie was like, it's Dad says it's like we're acting, just look at it like you're doing a part. And I was like, okay, but then call me Joe Blow, don't call me RVD. I've been Rob Van Dam for the last 15 years or whatever it was at the time. Maybe it was like 8 years, 9, 10. Anyway, that's the thing. It's like if the character and you are the same, which for a lot of us, it is. John Hannigan, he doesn't, become rah, and so the people that are us, it's weird that our true selves also, if you look at it from a certain perspective, matches what our intellectual property is. And our intellectual property is actually co-owned for the term of the contract with them, so they can actually have control over what you would say or how you would act or how you would feel about certain things. And it gets to be where, I don't know if fans ever think about that, but it can get to be where it doesn't feel right. You get protective. You start to question things sometimes, unless you're just a good soldier. And they prefer creating your identity so they can have total control anyway when that is an option. But anyway, they ended up saying, well, here's what we'll do. How about Stephanie has a crush on Rob, but Rob doesn't notice, because Rob's just like, yeah, you're right, these dimples are cool. Look, like I was so into myself that I wouldn't notice. And Chris Jericho was supposed to be chasing her, and then she's chasing me, and then I know I'm oblivious, and I'm working with Jericho, and he's mad at me because she wants me, and I don't even know. And that was what the idea was going to be out of all that. And thank God the whole thing just got dropped.
Yeah. Rob, one of the the bright spots, if you will, at least initially, when WCW went out of business and ECW, around the same time frame, was that invasion angle in the WWF, and you were a centerpiece of that, of course. And I think nobody on the planet thinks that they played that out correctly. In fact, they fucked it up royally. Do you have any idea or what your input was on that angle to try to make it such a money-making angle? And when did you realize that it was going to go south? Was it when Stephanie became the owner of ECW or before that?
Well, I was really happy to be representing ECW because they were adding depth to my career, all of my efforts up to that point, instead of erasing it and trying to replace it with some silly idea. That meant I was getting credit for everything I'd already done and even been there before. So I was happy with that. It was obvious to me that we were brought in as heels, and I guess maybe that was kind of, and this is after watching the Vince documentary, I look at it now like maybe ECW coming in and WCW as the invasion, that was maybe kind of an answer to the Outsiders / NWO, which, okay, I get it, but we're heels, like if NWO was over as heels and Outsiders, because it was like a, anti-establishment era and situation with that. And we were over too with our fans, the ECW fans, but I don't know. I always felt like we were brought in as heels, and they would have us jump the baby faces, and then especially when we eventually did ECW later, because then we'd have our own show in front of the same crowd that we were just heels in front of, because we were on SmackDown. ECW, but that was obviously much later. You know what? One of the first complaints I heard, which is probably valid, is that, well, they didn't necessarily pick the top stars from WCW, to represent, which a lot of those guys I didn't know, and I met them then in 2001, but it's like a bunch of those guys, and I guess some of them are from Ohio Valley, but then somehow they were in the invasion angle. I don't know, maybe WCW hired him first or after, I don't know, but like Jindrak and Stasiak, and there was, even Sean O'Hare was one of those guys back then, and there was a bunch of guys like that, and then, not necessarily Sting, Vader, Ric Flair. I mean, that would have been top guys at WCW, I think, coming over and saying, "Hey, this is our show." But that was part of it. I don't think they ever understood ECW. When I say they, I mean everyone but Paul Heyman, and so he was a one-man army trying to fight to knock out stupid ideas and to go forward with good ideas, like on the daily. That was part of the problem.
Yeah. Rob, just wondering how you ended up making your AEW debut. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I was looking up WrestleMania kind of packages last year for Philly, and you were kind of included in one of the hospitality packages. With you joining AEW, did the plans change? Did they cancel that, or was there any kind of heat because of that?
So I'm not under contract with AEW. I signed a per match contract with them, which I've done 5, maybe 6 times. Usually not much notice. That first one had more notice than I've probably ever had in my career. And it started with Jungle Boy reaching out to me and just saying he just wanted to see if I was interested. It seems like maybe someone else might hit me up first and to see if I was cool with talking to Jungle Boy. If I remember right, but I can't remember who that would have been. But Jungle Boy was saying he had this idea. He wanted to wrestle me, and and he had, you know, it was maybe have a few extreme guys before me, and then have the big match set up with me. And it was like the beginning of the year, and he told me this might change, but the dates we're looking at are like September 2nd and September 9th or something like that. It was at the beginning of the year, and I already didn't know. Months would go by and I didn't know if that was still going to happen or not, but it ended up happening. And on the exact same days, I thought, wow, these guys must be so structured. They know that far ahead of time what all they're going to do. So I guess I'm not coming back for a while because they haven't asked me to come back. And that one was like, 10 months or whatever it was. It wasn't 10, but 7-8 months. And then the next one was like a 2-day notice. And Matt Hardy told me, like, no, they don't always know. You got lucky on that one. They might call you. They'll probably have you come back. And I was like, well, we'll see. And then it was like, hey, can you do this show next Friday? So it's been like that. I sign matches per match, and it's only contracts per match, and it's only wrestling. And the first time that I talked to Tony Khan about doing this, a factor was that I still have a WWE Legends deal. So my use to AEW would be limited as far as like they can't put me on video games, action figures, stuff like that. And so on you could say it's limited on both ends, or you could say I got both ends going. Best of both worlds, or you could just say RVD does whatever he wants.
Got a question from Grandma Daisy, a fan, wants to know your thoughts on a man who I saw engage in a bloody hardcore ladder match just 2 weeks ago in Springfield, Massachusetts. Speaking of AEW, your matches with Gold Dust, Dustin Runnels.
Well, Goldust is awesome. A lot of times I forget to drop his name. I said earlier it'd be cool to wrestle some of my peers. Or did I say that on the other podcast that I did? It was on that one, right? Well,
you mentioned Chris Jericho as well.
Yeah. Jericho, and I mentioned Christian and Edge, and I didn't think about Goldust, but Goldust and myself and Jericho and Big Show, pretty sure we're all at Mark Henry. I think we're all the same age. Christian and Edge are probably a couple of years younger. Edge is at least 2 years younger, maybe 3. And anyway, yeah, I forget about Goldust, and Billy Gunn is in incredible shape, by the way, and he's like, I think 60-ish. So, setting new standards, and it's funny to even think about someone like that being considered like an old man. Like, you're going to pick on an old man? Yeah, pick on Billy Gunn. You know what I mean? But Goldust is still doing it, man. I know it's in his blood, because of his family. So maybe he'll just always do it. I don't know. But good guy. He's always enjoyed making the boys laugh and being the guy on the bus to try to entertain everybody. And I've always appreciated that about him. It would be cool to work with him as well.
Absolutely.
Fan there just saying he met you in Cork 2 years ago. I remember you came down. I was going to go to that show as well, but you had a problem, I think, with your flight that day.
Yes, I did.
Yes, did you come back here?
I know, dude. That's a black eye on me, on my memory, because I haven't missed too many dates in my whole career. And that one was one that I felt bad about. We're standing by at the airport all day, and the flight kept getting delayed into where it wasn't possible. And the crowd was literally waiting for me. Right? You were there. I'll always feel bad and feel like I owe everybody. So it was Cork. I was thinking it was Dublin, but it was Cork. Yeah, and the thing about it is, I could have got like an earlier flight in the morning. And in retrospect, I should have, but since there was this flight in the afternoon, I thought no problem. and it was a problem. So yeah, so I know I owe them, and I am due to come back. I don't know when. Let me just say that I don't have any plans of it yet. Although I did just hear from Joey Cabre from the AWR, and that's the first thing I thought of was, well, hey, no, he does now. He does also OTT, right, over the top. So
OTT, yeah. We got Finn Balor and JD both under WWE contract appearing at a show this month, along with Rene Dupree and I think Nick Dismore as well. Eugene's going to be over, so
okay,
if you guys
yeah. Well, I got that message from Joey. It's always good to hear from him, and that's the first thing I thought of was like, man, I owe those people that were there for that appearance in the court. How far is Cork from Dublin?
Cork is about 3 hours from Dublin, but if you want to run a show down in Cork, it'd be up. I do a few live shows and stuff over here. We can make that work if you want to go to Cork and do a show. No problem.
I'll keep that in mind.
A fan on social media sent a question. You talked about Kane earlier. Wanted to get your memories of the match that you and Kane had. I guess it was the last match for the legendary Road Warriors on Raw. Your memories of that particular match when you guys had the tag team championship.
Yeah. So what I remember of it, I hadn't seen the Road Warriors in a very long time. Last time I saw Hawk, I was so young. It was 95. And I've told this story on my RV Theology episode on my YouTube, as well as on my podcast. But I had an incident, where say we didn't get along the first time. And it was just something that he was drunk. After he was drunk, he totally forgot about it, whatever. But that was on my mind coming into this, because now I'm a grown-up. Like when you first come in the business, sometimes it's hard balancing out. You got to show so much respect or you're not going to make it. You're going to get kicked out. You can't be, young and green and feel overly comfortable in any situation. And that's just not allowed. But anyway, this time I felt, like now I'm established. Back then, I was just a kid coming up and didn't know how to tie my boots yet. But so I was like, okay, let's see what he brings here. And he was so easy to, soft, easy, get along with, super nice guy. There was no issues. And I doubt he even remembered, but, and I remember everybody talking about his no sell because I think after the 1, 2, 3 popped right up or something. And I don't even know. I wouldn't remember that if it wasn't for fans commenting about it, as if it was some incident that meant something to somebody, So having that stands out because I saw that and then I watched it, and then was like, oh yeah, like what's he doing? He hadn't worked in a long time either, and who knows what was on his mind. But it wasn't a great match. They didn't feel like, the absolute best, most compatible fit that I've ever been through the ropes with. And I don't think they had a job after that. I think it was just the one match, and then I don't think they got hired or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, we're after kind of burning through our half an hour here. We'd love to have you back on the show again sometime for a more kind of in-depth interview. But for the moment, anyway, can you tell the fans about the projects you've got going on, the wrestling fans, your podcast, everything you got going on? Where you go?
Yeah, so I've been working on this project for a long time, and finally we have a active website that is live, and this is something to bring the fans in and to give them a place where their opinion and their thoughts really matters. And so I'm building a community between the fans and the wrestlers. The platform is called Only Wrestlers, and I'll explain it in two halves. One, Only Wrestlers is a platform where followers can subscribe to their favorite wrestlers, and it's up to the wrestlers what content, how often they want to give the content, and what their subscription prices are. But every wrestler has that platform to be their office, so they can do that if they're interested in doing that. The followers, once they subscribe and join, they become part of a community, and the more it grows, the bigger number of followers and wrestlers that we have, the more important their thoughts and opinions become, because they have a voting power that's going to move Only Wrestlers Association forward. So instead of just making it like any other exclusive content subscription platform, I gave them an agenda, and we will be, when we build to it, running live wrestling shows, and we'll have the wrestlers that we book, and the fans will be able to vote at first, maybe who wrestles who. Eventually, what town do we even come to wrestle? And it's set up to even grow from there. As long as it keeps growing, so will their involvement, and so will us moving forward. So it's a bit of an experiment right now. We're at the very beginning. So we were going to start out with the live shows, and instead we rolled it back and we bring the fans in. And then like every step of the way, they're going to grow with us, give us their opinions. What championship belts should we have? What should their belts look like? Stuff like that. And when they support their wrestler by following them, they'll be able to vote also, because all the wrestlers that we have, that's going to be our talent roster. Some of them won't wrestle. They just do appearances, whatever. They're all individuals, but it's a growing concept, and we have incentive to get people signing up right now while we're still tweaking the website a little, still figuring out how to use it. But anybody that joins for the next 2 weeks to subscribe before Columbus Day is free for 30 days. But as the content creator, you're not going to get screwed out of the followers' free time, because I got our money guy to pay you for every head that you get to sign up under you to follow. So it's a chance for wrestlers to make money and fans. Wrestlers can make money by signing fans underneath them and getting compensated. Also referring other wrestlers. You refer another wrestler, you get 5% of whatever they make for 12 months. And same thing with the fans. So if you're a follower and you get your buddies to follow you too, have them sign up under your referral code, and you get 5% of what they are spending in 12 months. And so, every 20 guys that you get 5% of, guess what you got? 100% of something. So it's a chance for everybody to make a little coin, to build this community and relationship. You can do special requests. We got live feeds on there. We're going to be doing a podcast and everything on the homepage eventually, when we have it built up to be able to handle that. We want that to be like the hub, the go-to. And so you should check out onlywrestlers.com and see if it's something for you. It's meant to be a win-win for everybody. I'm known to have some ideas that eventually don't work and fall apart, but I'm not known to be a scammer. So you can trust that this is just good intentions, meant to be fun for everybody, and build that relationship. So we're having fun with it so far. We just started. Check it out. Sign up some referrals. Get paid.
Well, Rob, thank you for your time today. We'd love to have you back and do a full career in-depth interview. As you can imagine, we've just scratched the surface. But where can the fans find you primarily on social media?
Yeah, I'm at The Real RVD everywhere. Instagram, X, suck it. And and Facebook and YouTube. The Real RVD everywhere, and robvandam.com is where I try to keep my appearances lives going, so you can see where I'm booked in the foreseeable future. That's where you find me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Well, thank you for your time today. And fans, this has been the very special edition of the GP Productions Pro Wrestling Podcast. For Mr. Morris Shortle, I'm Jack Kilby. Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel if at all possible. It would really help me out.